this life, it is all but guaranteed you will not meet every expectation you set out for yourself. If you're expecting some kind of condolences for your limitations or possibly encouragement to reevaluate those expectations, you've come to the absolute worst place for that. If this doesn't work out for me, trepidation is my next step. But while I sit here with somebody else's thumb up my ass, all I can do is sit and ponder. Surely there has to be a way to reach such lofty goals as affordable housing and raising a fucking kid. And surely there has to be a way to spend $300 to kinda do it. The Sims 4 is the epitome of a guilty pleasure to me. It's kinda janky, kinda half-assed, a little ugly, bum knee, perma-banned off Twitter, sexual assault charges, probably not gonna be at prom tomorrow. But it's a pretty good bullshit experience, if you ask me. Before we get into that fissure, though, let's discuss the people behind it. Now, EA brings up an entirely different kind of feeling in the back of my throat. That feeling is pity. To be associated as one of the worst companies in America, good job, Reddit, keep up the fight. It's just kind of weird to see the Village Idiot sign hang off their neck whenever they have games such as Need for Speed Unbound, It Takes Two, and the incredible Dead Space remake. There just seems to be a bit more behind them than the soulless mud eaters that they're called online. Even with something like the thousands and thousands of sports styles, it's kind of sad to see somebody walk past one. Well, there's a little Spike Lee inside of a pretty sad b-ball story in a rusty baby pen. Where the world is hurled through an economic hell unseen before, and our leaders not really having a good justification for it, EA picks up the mic and promptly says, NHL 94. Thank you. My ramble over this point breaks down to, I guess I see more diamonds in the rough than the average person would. Call it optimism, call it an appreciation for an underdog story, but it shines through like a rifle in my back. What about the subject for today? What about The Sims 4? What about the clown only gay people can't see? Well, stay tuned. In the beginning, I had some offshoots, ideas for narratives that were concluded within the short of a few days and then would literally never be touched again. Imperfects that mocked me every time I got on, reminding me of my failures as a husband to my late wife who died of balls cancer. And that I'm just bad at making characters with longevity. At some point, I was hit with the idea of, what if I made an incredibly overpowered idiot of a villain? A trust fund baby with horrible but consistent decor, and no real idea that what he does is bad, but just kind of happens to all go to shit. Midas's brown hand, if you will. So from there, I put the pieces together and crafted my perfect 64 IQ Pinocchio. Hair, fade. Jaw, chiseled. Race, the deadliest shade of light skin. Top, dark blue pinstripe. If classy and clueless fuck, this is probably what the end result would be. Shoes, Reebok. He kind of blew the budget on it. Yes, he is alive, but my monster needs a name. Dean Dubious. And what's a better time than buying out a penthouse 2,000 feet vertical away from anywhere with no elevator? Entirely within my canon, because Will Wright's ghost haunts me a la Dan Aykroyd. To quickly refute any idea that this started smoothly, I'd like to say it didn't. At first I played it clean, just like my boys in blue here, but after being introduced by my wealthier neighbor who came in to gloat and probably waft whatever he ate into my space, I tapped into my inner white devil colonist gene and just did the money cheat. I needed to come up with a game plan. With poster board and red string, we set to Watergate this guy's wife. Where Allah closes a door, Allah forgot a window. The saddest thing of the day was finding out that when you invite someone of another family to yours, you can drain their family's bank account before carting away that member. Have fun with black mold and the banquet microwave barbecue. And so now, with her in dubious hands, I just have her crank the hog and then go off to divorce her husband. Of course, due to San Myshuno being a Christian ethno-state, she got pregnant and termination isn't going to be a real option here for us. With this hurdle, my creativity shined through again as I ejected her to Single Mom Island. Her glowing personality missing from the home, Dean utilizes what he's learned and slowly amasses a harem. Like a well-oiled machine, he grazes the clubs, hospitals, and veterinarian offices for new candidates. only to then ship them off to Single Mom Island, all while financially plummeting their relatives. I believe in the process somewhere I stole a dog. In support of newcomers, renovations were made to Casa Dubious. A lovely set of World War II era bunk beds with a lovely wall-less skylight, a new set of high-tech toilets positioned to shame anyone living beneath in the squalor, a fun fitness center with absolutely no light or color aside from sensual candles on a plate of rotten brownies. And to show status amongst passerby, massive spotlights directed towards any oncoming planes. Life couldn't get any sweeter, but power doesn't really have a limit, or at least until Dean can levitate. Regardless, Dean sets out to give Manifest Destiny a dubious twist, starting with developing a secret society of wealthy elites. The group is entirely dedicated to the simple goal of impeding on what isn't theirs yet, and looking good while doing it. Perimeters of the club set, every public library and above-ground family pool that isn't being watched carefully is in jeopardy. With enough horse-assing around, you can actually build up unique reputations. Considering I've got Get Famous and Get Together, this means it doesn't only affect normal social standings. Celebrities and, canonically, the rest of the world are catching the gene dubious. In the sun-setting chapter of Dean, he thinks on what his legacy will be. PTSD a given. No. Something that reaches the same heights he has, and arguably produced the same noxious aura. Tower Dubious. A massive hyper-reflective glass building filled with several hundred generators on top that spill waste into the neighborhood below. Hardly anything inside aside from barely living accommodations. This monstrosity kind of qualifies more as an art piece, considering the depth, learning it's showy and entirely hollow. Or at least almost. Knowing the task would keep him away from reenacting the good place with his harem, he found the best help, underpaid and mentally underdeveloped. Allow me to introduce you to Weiji. This want-for-nothing elderly man holds the temporary keys to the circus. Paid strictly with IOUs, this lucky guy here has the joy of operating Tower Dubious to the full potential. This mostly just means making food for the sole purpose of sourcing into usable fuel to dump into the generators, and on occasion hanging out with Dean at the Nerd Day Festival to seed controversial gaming opinions to set off the fat otaku who is ruled here by his trusty D&D guild. With the glowing success of Tower Dubious, the shareholders suggest franchising. And for the heartwarming conclusion of this chapter in Dean's wacky, zany, twisty-turny life, there are towers all across the globe and soon one near you. Pray you aren't in the way of the dubious dozer. And for a quick fire round, here are some of the other fun, fresh characters my trad wife GF made.
She like to fart every night of the week. She fart under the same old sheet. She fart. Kickstart her fart. She fart on my face if she could.